Hi, and good evening, good morning, good day, whenever it is you're watching this. Hopefully, in the middle of the night, wherever you are, to add to the spookiness of it all. Because Dan is somebody that, Fratello Dan is somebody that I wanted to get on earlier, but unfortunately, other obligations. And Fiona got in first. And I understand there needs to be a little bit of spacing in between as well. Dan, you're a fascinating person. I love watching your YouTube videos and the Facebook uploads that you make. So I
Thank you.
wanted to get I wanted to ask you some very specific questions. Um,
Okie doke.
Obviously, to anybody, you're an occultist and a good one, and it comes through very well in everything that you upload. So I wanted to ask, was there a specific instance or or something that you remember specifically, maybe early in life, maybe later in life, that got you first interested in occultism, or at least made you aware that it exists?
Actually, funny story. That's jazz. Well, if I'm a good occultist, I'm not sure. Aleister Crowley, perhaps that was a good occultist, but me, yeah, I have a long way to go before I reach that kind of level. But yeah, so what got me first interested? Well, my parents were churchgoers when I was growing up, essentially, and then there were I was sort of always hesitant and didn't really like it. So from a very early age, I even told the church people there after they asked me what do I want to do when I grow up, and a funny story. Every child was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be here for the church, and I'm gonna work around the church and read the Bible every day, blah blah blah." And I was like, "I'm not gonna be here," and I was just 8 years old.
I bet that didn't
So
go over too well.
nah, they were just baffled. They were just
Oh,
baffled.
good as a
But
reaction.
yeah, I kept my promise. I'm not there.
True.
So essentially, and there was this back in the 90s, this magazine for young adults. Was sort of like, I don't know, in Germany it's called Bravo. Anyone in Germany will recognize this immediately. It's looking back, it was a little bit creepy actually. But there was this sort of like story that fans of this magazine made. So like they shot photos and like put in little speech bubbles and had the whole story. And there was the first story that was in there was about Satanism. And I was like, hell yeah, Satanism. Satan is cool. Look, they all wear black cloaks. Now I wear black cloak, but so yeah, essentially, that is what made me aware that there's magic. I even revisited that story online a few months ago, and I've even seen things. Obviously, I missed when I was a child, like Sigil of Belial and all that kind of stuff. So that was sort of like the first instance where I was aware of it. And yeah, actually, as a little 8 year old, I said, "Yeah, I'm a Satanist now," but it was all just shits and giggles, actually.
And were you ever a practicing Satanist?
For a short while, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yes,
didn't
so
yeah.
not an atheist Satanist like the LaVeyan branch, but more like a theist Satanist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sort of like my introduction, more or less, to occultism. And after a while, I just noticed it was BS.
Well, was it something specific that made you not stick with it, or were you turned off by it in some way? What are the things that you took with you from that era to your current day?
Well, I mean, a lot of the philosophy around it is actually quite okay. It's also very much LaVeyan and everything, so sort of like don't cross my boundaries, I won't cross yours. So makes a lot of sense. But there were 2 points. It's just that I am not very Christian, to put it mildly, and acknowledging Satan is also acknowledging the God of the Bible. So that was sort of like one of the major points where I said, okay, no. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then obviously later on, I noticed that the whole community of theistic Satanists, well, there are quite a few nice people around there, but a lot of messed up ones. Really, a lot of messed up ones.
Which is I find something in the goetic corner of YouTube or the online world, at least. I find very much the same thing, and there's a great overlap between Satanism, or the people that follow Satanism, and people that try to practice the goetia, the ars goetia, in my personal
Yes,
observation. And I find that a lot
yes,
of
there's a
them tend
huge
to get in
overlap.
it for the wrong reasons also.
Yeah, yeah, it's more or less it attracts the dregs of society, more or less. I mean, there were even people who requested spells from each other to get their own sisters in bed. It was, yes, so really
Mm.
crazy. So, nah, nah.
A very
And what did I
niche.
carry over actually from? Yeah, like I said, there are very creepy people around there.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So I'm seeing people on live streams having total mental breakdowns and everything. Yeah, but like I said, there's quite a few nice ones actually out there, and more or less they're holding out, is what I see. Um, and what did I carry over? Obviously, things like Goetia and just general practices. And actually, what I learned is because a lot of the darker magic that is out there, Satanistic magic, is encouraging you not to protect yourself during
Mm.
rituals when working with demons. And well, if you do that, you're in for some trouble. So I carried along the doing the opposite.
Yeah. Mm. Uh, I find a very agreeable approach. Was there was there anything that made you choose a specific path later? I mean, do you follow a specific path now? And what made you decide on that? Or are you just more, I take what works for me, practitioner?
um, I have actually sort of like, yeah, the path that I have, you could say, spiritually speaking, is paganism. So
Mm.
it's Norse paganism.
Yeah. Mm.
Uh, I sprinkle a little bit of Hinduism in there because I'm just fascinated by the Hindu gods. Perhaps because they're so colorful. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, but in a sense, when it comes to magic, I use anything that works actually. And there's quite a few things that would seem overtly Abrahamic, but that is just simply because people have been doing specific rituals, and because of how the ritual is has been performed over almost now centuries, that it actually carries this weight. So even if you don't believe in Yahweh, or I do believe he exists, but that he's a big asshole, um, you can actually use these words to impress certain spirits, so to speak.
Well, in my experience, you can very well adapt rituals to your own specific branch of occultism. So it's perfectly possible, at least in my experience, to take a ritual that is described in the Goetia and then not use those names,
Mm-hmm,
not invoke those deities, but specifically apply it to Norse or Germanic deities. And you adjust it a little bit. A sigil
mm-hmm,
here is replaced by a rune or a bind rune of your making, and that actually really works. There is
mm-hmm.
power in the method, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. That's something interchangeable actually, and like what was it from the AFA or so? I read a ritual opening up a circle with instead of doing drawing the pentagram, you draw well, you sort of like make this movement of the hammer, and I just
Oh,
thought that's the LBRP just rebranded,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
does
yeah,
actually
yeah.
work.
And any personal experiences with runes specifically, or good or bad?
Well, good, actually, only because well, I only used runes for protection so far,
Mm.
and it's worked like a charm. Let's put it at that. And actually, I've taken the runes from protection from one of your videos,
Oh, wonderful.
so I learned it directly from you.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, yeah, it is my personal area of expertise. Well, I do have an academical and or a passing interest in other branches or streams of spirituality. I do tend to stick
Mm.
with that because I know it works for me. I know this with a certainty that's really hard to describe and comes off as a bit schizo to people who don't really have much to do with it all. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you can use them for basically anything. People underestimate how complete of a magic system it actually is, which I can never
Yes.
impress enough on people. That's yes, you can supplement it, of course. It can be sympathetic with
Mm.
other systems, but in itself, it is already complete. Do you
Yes.
do you have any thoughts to add to that?
Well, actually, yeah, like you said, it is complete. You can do any kind of spell you wish with the runes or with Norse deities. You can do it with the Landvetter and all that kind of stuff. So you already have a complete system out there. It is perhaps me who's the psychotic around here because I want to try every single branch of magic here and see what works for me and yeah, what doesn't work. So, and I found that the runes work in a much more natural way for me, at least. So uh, I don't actually have to put in that much effort, and it immediately connects to myself. So, like for example, I still like to use certain sigils that have been created like late 1800s, early 1900s stuff, and they're very often Abrahamic in that sense. And what you do actually when you sort of like gaze at these, you imprint these onto your heart, sort of. Yeah. So that's why a sigil on a piece of paper is actually not worth anything. It's actually when it's imprinted through your eyes to your heart. And that actually can take a while to get sort of like adjusted to that sigil, but within runic magic, it just goes like this.
Well, in my opinion, because I mean, I can tell that you're European or from the European diaspora. Um, and it has a lot to do with that because obviously people from African descent are going to have a way quicker connection with things like Palo and Ifa, even voodoo, things like that. And I think that is why runes
Yes.
tend to work so well for people, well, like us.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, um, um, funny that you mentioned the Africans because any kind of African magic, I tried just bits and pieces of hoodoo, voodoo, and that kind of stuff, and it didn't work at all. So there's absolutely no connection for me there, and I can't do anything with it. And I also had the feeling that with some of those deities, that they were more demons in that sense, actually. So they work with very, very dark spirits.
Yeah, I have heard that too. And I know that there are some pretty dark African spiritualities out there. But I'm really not
Mm-hmm.
familiar with most of it. I have to say only in name and very superficially. But it's like I
Mm-hmm.
personally always had a bit of a resistance against spiritualities that are obviously not from my own lands, well, which actually
Yes.
includes the Ars Goetia, because I have read it, I have tried. No, I
Mm-hmm.
can't say I've tried to practice it because there's just a resistance. This like it's not connecting. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I feel nothing. And
Yeah, well, if you have that resistance, obviously it won't work for you because, yeah, any the slightest resistance in any kind of magic, it just falls flat on its face. So yeah, that's more or less it with it. Yeah, and obviously the Ars Goetia I carried on over from those Satanist days, obviously, and I actually found them to be quite nice. And like Olivia said, with that there might be some connection in the past or something of the sorts. And I mean, there has been quite a great mixing of deities, gods, and whatnot, especially. from ancient Greece and the Middle Eastern times. So it got mixed up quite a lot. So perhaps that's where the connection does come easier.
True. I mean, there's quite a bit of controversy around a deity or an entity like Paimon, but that name sounds Greek to
Mm,
me, Paimon. It does not sound Middle Eastern to
yes.
me. But at the same time, he is the god that protects travelers through the desert. I mean, I don't imagine that's any Greek desert they're
Hmm.
talking about. So it can be pretty difficult
Not really.
to. So I do
Well,
understand why people
perhaps
have a
the
connection with.
few, yeah, perhaps the few Greek settlers that went to Libya or something, and I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I have a whole theory, or it's actually not my own theory, but I don't know if you ever heard of a man called Gmerkin. Well, he more or less proposed that the Torah was written around 273 BC, not like 1500 like the Christians and Jews claim. Because it follows certain Socratic and Platonic um, philosophies, um, and even Pythagorean. So it follows a specific pattern that can be found from Greek philosophers, even including things like how the world was made. You know, like Plato goes with first the number one, and then it splits into two, and then has a number three, and so on and so forth. You can find this within Genesis and and so forth. So um, even the New Testament later on became even more Hellenized, or was more Hellenized from the get go. So essentially, the whole from my point of view is actually stolen from the Greeks and has been corrupted. That's why if we look at systems like Kabbalah, um, it seems that the ancient Egyptians had a system very similar to it, but these these discs on that uh, on that drawing of the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, there's two that are switched around, and modern day occultists are trying to switch it around back to the original form because it works better.
Oh,
So there was an obvious corruption even in that. So
right.
yeah, because yeah, some people tried to proclaim themselves as chosen over others, and that's why they just stacked corruption within writings.
And you think that that happened, I mean, obviously, probably intentionally, but do you think that they practice it the other way around, the way that you said it works better? And to us, it's just, yeah, they can have it that way. It won't work anyway.
Actually, not. They're actually doing the corrupted thing,
Oh,
as seen by the most secretive cults of um, within Judaism, the Chabad Lubavitch, if you ever heard of them. It's a small minority, but they seem to do the darkest part of the magic, and actually, it is. If you would look at it from the outside, it would seem like the Satanism version of Judaism to Yahweh, and it gets really weird very quickly.
it sounds interesting now. It really sounds like a rabbit hole I would love to
Yes.
delve into one day. Well, um, th-
Yes.
now about you knowing all these things, did you have somebody guiding you in that sense, or did you have a mentor or somebody that showed you the right direction in where to research, or is this all just self-taught?
Well, in the beginning, it was self-taught, but then I was in a coven with three to four actually quite nice people, and it was a very Wiccan style. So essentially, because if you're just reading from books, you're sort of raw dogging it, you're never sure if you're doing it right. And more or less just a basic setup of how a ritual works. They showed me very well. So, and from that point on, I could build my own career, so to speak.
Well, that actually brings me right into my next question, really. Like, if you had to compare practicing solo or practicing in a coven or a lodge, um, I mean, obviously you go solo now, which I'm assuming is how you prefer it. But if you had to outline for the
Yes.
audience, like the pros and cons of both.
Well, what I found is that Coven provides a social circle. So if you're into that, you go for moods and for covens, and it does provide that much. I've heard a lot of fair warnings about specific covens like OTO and others, although not putting them down, but they seem to hold you back in a sense. They tell you to learn something which is at the end completely useless for 1 year, and then you may be accepted into the inner circle, blah, blah, blah. So it is a lot of pompous and regalia and all that kind of stuff. But there are some covens out there that are very genuine and can do work together. So essentially, if you do find a genuine coven, what you can do is build energy with them together. And it's not like if you have two, then it's double. It is always squaring. So it goes exponentially, the power. Um, it's quite nice, yes. So especially if you do things like cones of power and stuff like that. If I go solo, obviously, and I mean, I am solo in that sense, but with entities. And entities themselves, they hold immense amount of power, or can at least channel it in a better way. I'm not entirely sure how they do it, because on a side note, people who are in awe of angels, demons, spirits, us humans are more powerful than them, actually. And they are actually in awe of us, so we should never like worship them or think they're more powerful. But they can make spells more powerful. It's um, sometimes fights each other. This piece of information, but yeah, that's how I perceived it so far.
Well, I have a theory on that myself, actually, on why that is that they can do that. It's because time, they don't experience it as we do, because we experience time linear. I mean, there's one moment
Yes.
after another, but they don't experience it that way. It's more of a flat circle for them, and it's everywhere, it's just everywhere, like 180, 360 vision, wherever you go. And for us, it is very difficult to imagine, but I imagine that's how it must be for them. So, in order for a spell to work, they have access to everything. That's how they can know things about ourselves that we never told anybody, because they just need to look around and they can see it, and it's happening now for them. For us, this happened 10 years ago. For them, they can just see it as if it's happening now and narrate it back to us as if it's happening now, as if they were there. They were there and they're not there at the same
Hmm.
time. And I think it works the same
Okay,
way for
perhaps.
spells, is they can reach back into the past, make a little tiny manipulation here and there, just a small
Yes.
suggestion, a tiny push. And
Yeah, perhaps because they have that view. Yeah,
yeah,
360 view.
yeah, I think so. Well, it's just a personal theory at the end of the day. Um, but that is how I imagine
Could
it
be.
works. I could be wrong, for sure.
Yeah, there are many theories out there, and we'll probably never know as long as we're on this planet. But hell, if we cross over, probably we'll know, and then we get reborn, we forget again. Well, that's the whole story.
What is the if are there specific rituals out there that are known rituals, not the ones that you made yourself per se, unless you want to share it, that had the most
Hmm.
impact on you as a person? As in, like, I suddenly have a mental shift, I see the world different, or I just generally feel better or worse, even.
Well, specific spells, not so much. It is that I asked Kali, and I think I mentioned this 1,000 times nearly already, but yes, I asked Kali to make me into a great magician and um, yeah, with everything that comes with it.
Mm.
And first of all, she tore my life to pieces because I wasn't actually that much of a good person. I mean, it wasn't awful, awful like some kind of lefty kook or something like that, but a little bit self-centered stuff like that. So she tore me down, and actually she made me see the world through different eyes, and that I shouldn't be so much self-centered.
Mm.
And although not like a Christian philanthropist showing the other cheek or something, um, but essentially just I wouldn't call it individuation, but a closer step to it, definitely.
Well, I mean, there is something about that in Runic philosophy as well, and it is a philosophy also. Is that no man is truly an island. Whatever you do affects other people. Even tiny things can
Yes,
affect other people. So for you, you might think you're creating a small ripple in the water, but for another person there, it it can hit them in the wrong way, at the wrong time, and so you're negatively affecting a
yes,
person just by being careless. So that's why also there's this big emphasis on trying to be an honorable person in Germanic philosophies and Norse philosophies,
hmm,
because you need each other, especially because of the climate where they lived. It's very, very dangerous, lethal even, to be out on
oh
your
yes,
own. You wouldn't have survived. It was a death sentence for sure. And I think in general,
yes,
spiritualities do take on the characteristics of the environment very, very much.
yes. You're in a long house in winter, and you're completely snowed in, and then you start eating a lot of beans, and then going to your brothers and just like, pull my finger. They'll throw you out in the snow. It's like, get out of here, motherfucker.
Well, yeah, I mean, it it's a very specific one, but yeah, but it's it gets a bit watered down, I find, over time, because now we don't really experience that anymore. There are all sorts of facilities that people can go to if they're in need of something. Well, back in the day, it was a completely different story, of course. If somebody came knocking on your door in the depth of winter and you didn't let
Yes,
them in, you were basically telling that person, "Get effed, I don't care if you die." It's really not the same in this day and age. So we do have
yes,
to take that in mind when we think of
yeah.
things like the nine noble virtues and hospitality. I have a few things to say about that, quite frankly. But
Ah, okay.
I'm not going to get into it, not now. But we have 10 minutes left. So I have one big question. Uh, what would you tell a
Yes.
person that is starting in the occult? So they haven't really started yet. They maybe read a few things about it, but they haven't tried any rituals. They're not really sure on what path to follow either. And they want to be like you, like, I'm going to try different things. What would be the advice that you
Hmm.
give these people?
Ooh, that's a big one because I mean, I've given out that kind of advice, but always piecemeal, so never the full story. What I would actually recommend, in a sense, is well, if you want to find your path first, that would be very helpful, um, which would be probably through reading, like a mythology reading, stuff like that, which can what you connect to most, and not in a crazy way, like you feel that you are some kind of aboriginal dream didgeridoo guy or something like that when you're just Joe from uh, down in Sheffield or something. Uh, um, so it's the most likely path you should choose is ancestral. So I mean, this is something we all been touting for years, and especially Fiona has made it a very big thing, and there she's bang on the money.
Yeah.
that you do have an ancestral connection. So I would always advise to start there. It could be that you may have some like past life connection to, I don't know, say ancient Egyptian
Yeah.
gods or so, because well, I'm not sure why the Egyptian gods are so often present within other people's past, but it's just the way it is.
I have
Um,
noticed that myself actually, that they are very, very present for European people, the
yeah,
Egyptian gods. And
that's really weird.
yeah, I've done past life readings for people that had obvious past life connections in Egypt, and they knew this about themselves also. So it's very validating when you hear them say
Okay,
it back to you. Um, I
nice.
obviously have a lot more questions for you, but we're nearing the end of the first half. Could you tell people on YouTube where to find you if they want to keep up with your work? Because you do, I mean, you do put out
Well, it's
videos, so
yes.
yeah, mm,
Although I think my short's a little bit shit, but oh well, if people like it.
they do.
Um, yeah, so you would find me on YouTube at Stars and Wands, without any space in between. So and the and is an and symbol. I don't know what
Okay.
it's called. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely leave your link in the description of the video and in the comments, so people can subscribe to you. Do subscribe to Fratello Dan. It's really worth it. It gives these little golden nuggets of truth that, well, of truth and insight and just often practical things. And
Yes.
it's absolutely, definitely 100% worth subscribing to. Um, I am going to cut it here. And obviously, like I said, leave your links in the description. And the second half of this is going to be available on Substack. The link will also be in the description. Um, because yeah, you do need to subscribe for that one. And in the second half, we're going to
Yes. If you haven't, do it now.
yeah, I'm going to ask a little bit more spooky questions, if you will,
Oh yes.
which I very much look forward to. I really want to know. I'm gonna pick your brain. Well,
Oh
in any
yes.
case, yeah, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in part two, hopefully.
Wonderful.